G'day, if you want to change over your trip computer, your trip computer in your N70 Hilux is Cactus and you need to replace it, or you've got the non-trip computer, you've got just a clock and the passenger seat sensor light, and you want to change that over in your N70 Hilux, this is how you do it. Watch for the other video where we talk about the other things you need to make this work. There's a separate video on that. But this just tells you how to do it. So firstly, just briefly, if you've got a Hilux Workmate or an SR, in all the Hiluxes except the very last of the SRs, so the 2015 SR does come with the SR5 dash and the SR5 trip computer. But if you've got a SR or a Workmate that came prior to 2014, where they did that last facelift upgrade where they fitted the trip computer, you'll have one of these. It'll be a clock and it'll be a passenger seat sensor, which is just a light that'll flash if there's weight on the passenger seat. It'll look like that. Their overall footprint from the front is the same. They have exactly the same mounts, but this is a thicker unit with all the trip computer, whatever, behind it, so it is thicker from the back, but they will fit in the same mount. So either if this blows up in your SR5 and you want to replace it, or you've got one of these and you want to go to one of these, then this is how you fit it. This is fitting only, as I said. Now watch the other video to get illuminated on what else you need to do to make this work, because there's a couple of extra things you do need to be aware of. So we're about to fit this now, so the dash is largely pulled apart. The good news is you don't have to take the dash out. So if you just have if you take your car stereo out and you have a look at how this is mounted, you might think, oh geez, I'm gonna have to take the dash out. Now with the N70s, the dashes do come out in two sections. You have the upper dash and you have the lower dashboard as well. And they come out, the upper dash comes out and then the lower dash comes out. But you don't need to take the dash out completely, but you do need to advance well on the way as if you're going to get the dash out. But you don't have to take the dash out. You just want to loosen it off so that you can get it out. So it's not a lengthy job. You should be able to do it, a bit over an hour. You should be able to loosen all the dash off, pull it, and then, fit this into it. It's actually not that big of a job. It looks big, and when you have a look at the car, you'll think, oh geez, what a mess. It's not that big of a job, particularly because you don't have to take the dash out, which means you don't have to reseat it in all its clips and everything like that. You don't even have to pull the passenger airbag out. You do need to loosen up, but you don't need to take the passenger airbag out. So let's have a look. Let's just jump into the car and I'll show you exactly what's going on and what you have to do to change these over. Okay, so here we are in the car. Now ignore in here, I've got the instrument cluster out, I've got the airbag out, I'm doing something else with that while I'm here. This has nothing to do with the process. You do need to take the instrument cluster out, but you don't need to take the airbag out. So the airbag can remain, but you do need to take the instrument cluster out because there's a few bolts that there's a screw here, there's a screw down in here, and then there's one up here that you do need to take out for the instrument cluster to loosen this off. So what you do, this just pulls out, so you'll just grab it on the seam and one hand either side, basically where your air vents are, and give it a sharp pull and this will pop out. Don't need to undo any of your clips, you can leave that there, that'll be fine for this purpose. I've got an aftermarket radio, so if some of these plugs don't look familiar to you, don't stress about that. I've taken the aftermarket radio out. Obviously I have my trip computer which sits in here. That's come out as well, I've got that out. So what else do you need to do to get it to this stage? You'll see that the dash is loose. You do need it loose. You need it like this because there's not enough room to pull the trip computer out. You need to be able to pull this forward, move it across, and then you'll be able to pop it out. But you do need this to be loose. So what you do, take your pillars off. So this is a 2012 Workmate, so it doesn't have the airbags in here. But that's not really a big deal. You do need to be careful. You shouldn't need to pry this off. This should just, once you've taken there's a grab handle here undo these two. There's bolts. You can take it out with a Phillips head or a 10mm socket. Just take the clips out on the handles that cover that piece there. Just take them off and then just undo those bolts. That'll come off, and then you can just pull it off. Pull the door seal down, and then just pull those trim panels off. And you should, there's warnings in an owner's manual or the workshop manual, which says don't stick a screwdriver in there because you might puncture the airbag. That's good advice, but you don't need to stick a screwdriver in there. If you put your fingers in there just a little bit and pull, they'll pop straight off. They're just held in with clips. And then you'll pull them out because there's tugs. They sit in tugs down in here, down in the slot in the dash. So pull them out. You need to take them off both sides. So once you've got to this stage, there's screws here, here on both sides. They're the same, here, here, and then down here and here. You need to take those screws out. You've taken your head unit out. The head unit needs to come out. Then on this side, you'll need to take the glove box out. The glove box out comes here. There's an airbag plug up here. That's going to be a bit hard to see. It's very dark in here. Let's get some light in here. There we go. That's better. So there's your airbag plug. And then there's a bolt that holds your airbag in that goes here and here. That's a 12mm bolt. Undo that one and that one. You don't need to take the airbag out of the dash. The airbag can stay because you just need this loose. So you don't, but that is bolted down to the frame underneath the dash. So you do need to undo those bolts. You do need to undo the plug. And then, but you can leave there's clips that hold the airbag into the dash that's actually clipped in. But you don't need to muck around with them. Just leave them be. Just have it loose like this. Reach under at the back of the if you've got the passenger seat alert and the clock, you don't have the trip computer, which looks like that. You'll have two plugs. You'll have these two plugs here. Those are the two plugs that you'll have, 1 and 2. Just squeeze, pull them out, and then you'll be able to pull the dash forward, and at the same time that you're pulling the dash forward, pull it forward, push it out this way, and then bring it out this way, and that's how it'll come. This plug is the plug for the trip computer. Now, if you've got an SR, this will be taped back on itself back in under here. It'll be just taped back like that. You just need to undo the tape, pull that out, and then when you put the trip computer in, you won't need those plugs. You can just tuck them back in there. The plug is already there in the factory loom, so you can just plug the trip computer in. Really, really simple. So no big deal there, nothing to get stressed out about. And that's all you have to do. Assembly is just the reverse of what you've done. Screwing the dash in, bolting the airbag down, plugging the airbag in, pillars, the head unit, dash, instrument cluster. Once you've got all that back in again, that's your reassembly. So it's pretty simple. You should be able to do this in not too much time at all, particularly because you don't need to take the dash out. Just have it loose so you can pull it forward, and then you'll be able to get your trip computer in. And trip computer, to put it in there, just feed it in like that, and then just push it across. So in, right over to this side, and then push it in, and then line it up. There's a grommet, and then the screw goes in there. To get the trip computer out and to put the trip computer in again, there's a hole here, and I just lever the dash up a little bit, which gives me enough room to get the screw in. It's a little bit annoying, but if you just push the dash up a little bit while it's loose, you will be able to get the screw in. I've taken it out and I've put it in again. I've done this a couple of times. It's really not a big deal. It's annoying. It's in a really annoying spot, but you will get the screws in again. Just be careful when you put the screws in that you don't drop them, because if you drop them, they'll go back in under the dash, and they can be a little bit hard to find. So that's the trickiest part of doing this, is probably just not dropping those two screws. So have a magnetic tip on your screwdriver, and then when you pull them out, they might get caught in this square access point here. Just grab it with your finger and just pull it out. Doesn't need to be a big deal. And as I said, don't need to take the airbag out. I'm just doing something else at the moment, and that's unrelated to the overall effort here. So that's how you change your trip computer over. If you've got a Hilux Workmate or SR, these can be found pretty cheap. I picked this up for $50. So, but watch the other video if you want to fit the trip computer, because there might be a couple of other steps that you need to undertake to make the trip computer work. But in terms of fitting it or replacing it, if yours is broken, that's how you do it. Hope this was useful for you. Thank you for watching.